Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Elena if you are new here, and if you are not new here, then you have likely already gotten the sense that I love books. You would also know that I really love personal development, and so naturally when those two things come together, I get pretty excited. And it makes me want to share it with the world, including you. And so that's why today I wanted to attempt to convince you to read some of my favorite self-help, personal development, personal growth books, simply by reading you, in my opinion, what are some of the best quotes from these books. I got the idea for this video from Jack Edwards, who did a similar sort of video, so shout out to him for a fabulous idea. I thought, how fun, let's do it. I did try to cover a range of books, from kind of the more practical, pop culture-y kind of books to some that are a little more woo-woo, a little more spiritual. So I hope that there's gonna be something in here for everyone, and I hope that one of these sparks your interest and that you pick up a new book today. Let's get into it. Okay, the first book is Deep Work by Cal Newport, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. So obviously this book is all about focus. It makes an argument for how deep work is valuable, rare, and meaningful, and then also obviously offers some really great insights on how to work more deeply. I don't want to give away too much about any of these books, so I'm only going to give you like a small snippet to talk about what the book is actually about, but then I want you to listen to these quotes. So in this section of the book, he's talking about a certain study, an experiment that was performed in 2006. So he writes, Dijkstra Huys's team isolated this effect by giving subjects the information needed for a complex decision regarding a car purchase. Half the subjects were told to think through the information and then make the best decision. The other half were distracted by easy puzzles after they read the information and were then put on the spot to make a decision without having had time to consciously deliberate. The distracted group ended up performing better. Observations from experiments such as this one led Dijkstra Huys and his collaborators to introduce unconscious thought theory, UTT, an attempt to understand the different roles conscious and unconscious deliberation play in decision-making. At a high level, this theory proposes that for decisions that require the application of strict rules, the conscious mind must be involved. On the other hand, for decisions that involve large amounts of information and multiple vague and perhaps even conflicting constraints, your unconscious mind is well suited to tackle the issue. Very interesting, very insightful. And then the second quote, I picked two quotes from each book because I just like, I couldn't choose. In this section, he talks about the ability to concentrate and training your focus. The ability to concentrate intensely is a skill that must be trained. This idea might sound obvious once it's pointed out, but it represents a departure from how most people understand such matters. In my experience, it's common to treat undistracted concentration as a habit, like flossing, something that you know how to do and know is good for you, but that you've been neglecting due to a lack of motivation. This mindset is appealing because it implies that you can transform your working life from distracted to focused overnight if you can simply muster enough motivation. But this understanding ignores the difficulty of focus and the hours of practice necessary to strengthen your mental muscle. I particularly love this quote because anytime we talk about why motivation is not the answer, I'm here for it. Whether we're talking about habits, focus, changing your life, like motivation is simply something that I think is so overrated and actually a lot less useful to us than we think it is, or a lot less temporary in its usefulness than we think it is. And so I just love seeing this other example of how motivation is, again, not the answer. So obviously you can see I took a lot of different notes and quotes in this book, so if those little snippets appeal to you and you are looking to learn how to focus better and get some more deep work done, there you go. Book number 2 is Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin. This book is essentially all about making and breaking habits, so let's get into the quotes of it. I became convinced, however, that the defining aspect of habits isn't frequency or repetition or the familiarity of cues for a particular behavior. These factors do matter, but in the end, I concluded that the real key to habits is decision-making, or more accurately, the lack of decision-making. A habit requires no decision from me because I've already decided. Am I going to brush my teeth when I wake up? Am I going to take this pill? I decide, then I don't decide. Mindfully, then mindlessly. I shouldn't worry about making healthy choices. I should make one healthy choice and then stop choosing. Habits make change possible by freeing us from decision making and from using self-control. This is literally on like page 5 of the book. So she really starts by diving into what makes habits so important, what makes them so helpful and useful to us, what even kind of defines a habit. And then you can see I've got a lot of stickies in here because while I wouldn't say that this is necessarily the best overall book on habits out there, that would be Atomic Habits, which I have on my shelf over here, but I just felt like I talked about that book in so many videos that I thought I would choose something different this time. What this book really excels at though is giving super specific, tangible, apply it today kind of tips and tricks and hacks and strategies for either building new habits or breaking old ones. And there's so many of them, so some of them are bound to appeal and work for you. One of those little tricks that she shares is the second quote that I have here, where basically she talks about how she was talking to, I think her sister or someone she knows who works in Hollywood. And she talks about how, you know, people in Hollywood like have managers, right? Like celebrities and whatnot. So it's about taking this idea of a manager and applying it to yourself. She writes, "I imagine myself as the client, a fabulous celebrity. And like all fabulous celebrities, I have a manager. I'm lucky because my manager understands me completely and she's always thinking about my long-term well-being. These days, when I struggle with a habit, I ask myself, what does my manager say?" And then she goes into like a whole example about it. I just love that this book is so full of like these little strategies of like pretending you're your own manager and like what would your manager who always has your best interests at heart say to you in a specific moment. I think that's so great. Okay, the third book is Range by David Epstein. The subtitle is Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. The author basically presents an argument throughout the whole book using so many studies and examples and like really like factual information. It's not just like a feel-good kind of book, like it's all based on research. He develops an argument for why developing broad, wide-ranging skills and interests is actually beneficial even when it feels like everyone around you is telling to specialize, just pick one thing, niche down, choose one thing and stick to it. So if you are a multi-passionate person like myself who likes a lot of things, wants to do a lot of things, whether that's like in your career or in hobbies or in your business, and you are struggling to narrow down, this book is for you. I wish I had this book like so much earlier in life. I mean, it only came out in like 2019, so, you know, I couldn't have had it when I was in university and in my early 20s, but I wish I knew this stuff and I wish parents would know this stuff. And I just, oh, this is just one of those books that I'm like, oh my God, life-changing for me at least. And if you're a multi-passionate person and you struggle with that, it will be for you too. Okay, I'm rambling. Let's get into the quotes. In this part, he's talking about a study that was done around a British boarding school for, I believe they were taking in like super talented musicians. So it says, they were surprised to find that the students classified as exceptional by the school came from less musically active families compared to less accomplished students, did not start playing at a younger age, were less likely to have an instrument in the home at a very young age, had taken fewer lessons prior to entering the school, and had simply practiced less overall before arriving. A lot less. It seems very clear, the psychologist wrote, that sheer amount of lessons or practice time is not a good indicator of exceptionality. As to structured lessons, every single one of the students who had received a large amount of structured lesson time early in development fell into the average skill category, and not one was in the exceptional group. The strong implication, the researchers wrote, is that too many lessons at a young age may not be helpful. First of all, I just think that really explains why I am very average at piano. But I think this one little snippet is just very representative of the different kinds of studies and stories and research that the author explores. This one was obviously about music and instruments, but he goes through studies related to careers, related to how much money people make, related to sports and athleticism, other areas that people really talk about a lot when it comes to skill development, which is things like chess or golf or whatever. And so if hearing about studies like this is of interest for you, then you would love this book. So in this, I'm just taking like little sentences from kind of this one general area to give you an idea of this other section where he talks about careers. We recognize that our desires and motivations sure changed a lot in the past, see your old hairstyle, but believe that they will not change much in the future. The precise person you are now is fleeting, just like all the other people you've been. The most momentous personality changes occur between age 18 and one's late 20s, so specializing early is a task of predicting match quality for a person who does not yet exist. Oh, that just like gets to my heart because man, I would have done things so differently in my 20s had I read this book earlier. So, and okay, this is just a one sentence quote that I think is is so good. He writes, "If we treated careers more like dating, nobody would settle down so quickly." I just love that so much because like, how true is that? Okay, so now we're starting to get into a bit more of the spiritual woo-woo side of things, which I love. The first book is Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach, which, as you can tell based on the title, is obviously about self-acceptance, self-love, overcoming feelings of unworthiness, learning to live with an open heart, cultivating compassion, that kind of thing. And you know, the subtitle is Embracing Your Life with the Heart of a Buddha, so definitely very spiritual. She pulls a lot from like Eastern spiritual philosophies and things like that. But I would also say it's pretty practical. She has some good guided meditations in here, and it contains a really nice mix of her personal life stories as well as these spiritual teachings. So this first quote is literally from the very first chapter. "Imperfection is not our personal problem. It is a natural part of existing. We all get caught in wants and fears. We all act unconsciously. We all get diseased and deteriorate. When we relax about imperfection, we no longer lose our life moments in the pursuit of being different and in the fear of what is wrong." I don't know about you, but when I read that, I just feel like a sense of like exhaling, of calm, of like feeling soothed. And that is so representative of how this whole book just makes you feel. It's like getting like a nice warm cozy blanket and like wrapping yourself up in it and like being soothed and calmed down. Okay, this next quote is from like the very end of the book, and it's a story that she tells, which I just found so, I don't know, just listen to it. "A legend from ancient India tells of a musk deer who, one fresh spring day, detected a mysterious and heavenly fragrance in the air. It hinted of peace, beauty, and love, and like a whisper beckoned him onward. Compelled to find its source, he set out, determined to search the whole world over. He climbed forbidding and icy mountain peaks, padded through steamy jungles, trekked across endless sand deserts. Wherever he went, the scent was there, faint yet always detectable. At the end of his life, exhausted from his relentless search, the deer collapsed. As he fell, his horn pierced his belly, and suddenly the air was filled with the heavenly scent. As he lay dying, the musk deer realized that the fragrance had all along been emanating from within himself." Oh, like that kind of makes me want to cry. Like, I think that's so beautiful and so heartwarming. This story, as well as different pieces of this book, are definitely something that like sticks with you later in life. You know, it's something that just kind of roots itself in your brain, and you come back to these little ideas over and over again. So it's a really wonderful, beautiful book. Okay, next up we have A Happy Pocket Full of Money by David Cameron Gikandi. If you do decide to pick this up, if you are not already in the spirituality, woo-woo, manifestation kind of world, then you are going to have to kind of open up your mind and really be open to absorbing the wisdom that this book has to offer, because I do think it has a lot to offer. It just does it in a way that is kind of different from how we are used to consuming books, which is very direct, very kind of to the point. This is kind of like, it feels like your mind is being molded as you read the book, and you kind of just have to go into it, and you're not always fully going to understand every piece of it, but it's like, it's doing something to your mindset, and it works. Obviously, based on the title, it's about money and wealth, but also kind of like not really. The first chapter is about the illusion of money. The second chapter is about quantum physics. So that already gives you an idea of what direction this book is going to go in. So let's read some quotes. This quote is from that second chapter about quantum physics. "There is no such thing as empty space. All space is filled with energy, the same energy that makes up you and everything else. It is just that your five senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, do not detect the many varied types of forms that exist in the universe. In other words, you can only detect forms that are recognized by those five senses, unless you have developed other senses. But that does not mean that forms that are humanly perceptible are the only things that exist in this universe." Okay, and quote number 2. This one I particularly love because it's such a good mindset reframe. "Some people say that loving money is wrong. They often say the love of money is the root of all evil. Analyze that statement. The love of money in itself is not evil. It can just be the root of evil. Money itself is also not evil, but it can cause coveting, greed, and subsequently crime. Loving money is perfectly healthy as long as you do not develop that into greed and crime. In fact, loving anything, not just money, when taken in the wrong way can be the root of evil. People have killed over the love of their romantic partners, property, and religion. Yet there is nothing evil about loving partners, property, or your faith. It is never love that is wrong or the item being loved. It is only when that love is expressed in an unhealthy manner that its effects can be considered wrong. I love that because, like, what a good little mindset reframe when it comes to money. So again, I feel like this is one of those books that either you love it or you hate it, but if you like those quotes, then maybe you will love it. Last but certainly not least, in fact, I think I might have saved the best for last, The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. I struggle to know exactly how to even summarize or describe what this book is about. I guess you could say that the book is about consciousness and understanding who you are, but it's very much not like a concrete kind of book, much more similarly to A Happy Pocket Full of Money. It's more of a mindset shifting book. Like, you will simply not be the same person before and after you read this book. So let's get into the quotes. You live in the seat of consciousness. A true spiritual being lives there, without effort and without intent. Just as you effortlessly look outside and see all that you are, you will eventually sit far enough back inside to see all your thoughts and emotions, as well as outer form. All of these objects are in front of you. The thoughts are closer in, the emotions are a little further away, and form is way out there. Behind it all, there you are. You go so deep that you realize that's where you've always been. At each stage of your life, you have seen different thoughts, emotions, and objects pass before you. But you have always been the conscious receiver of all that was. So I'm gonna let you just sit with that one. The second quote is like slightly more concrete. The natural ups and downs of life can either generate personal growth or create personal fears. Which of these dominates is completely dependent upon how we view change. Change can be viewed as either exciting or frightening, but regardless of how we view it, we must all face the fact that change is the very nature of life. If you have a lot of fear, you won't like change. You'll try to create a world around you that is predictable, controllable, definable. You'll try to create a world that doesn't stimulate your fears. Fear doesn't want to feel itself. It's actually afraid of itself. So you utilize the mind in an attempt to manipulate life for the purpose of not feeling fear. Just so good, and as you can see, I had quite a few more notes and quotes in here. This is actually, I would say, in the top 5, if not the top 3 maybe, of all self-help books that I've read. So it's definitely up there. That's all for today. I hope that these books sparked some curiosity within you, and I would love to know which of them you found most interesting and would like to read next. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you are looking for even more book content, then I'm going to link my books playlist somewhere up top here on the screen, as well as in the description below, so you can go watch those next. As always, thank you so much for being here and watching. Your support means so much to me as I work on growing this YouTube channel. I will see you again next week. Bye.